a website called fuckedcompany.com, and people suddenly got great pleasure out of reading about the downfall of mankind. 75,000 people receive this email newsletter, and thanks for waiting to hear this guy speak, and I appreciate his patience and your patience. Pud of fuckedcompany.com.
Hi, I live 4 blocks from here, so this was cool. It says in the thing that I'm going to talk about experiences setting up and maintaining a popular website for corporate rumors. How does he handle confidentiality of rumor mongers, avoid lawsuits, provide custom software to drive his site, and make money from it? So I shall do so. I'll give like a well, let me give you like the super quick overview of what fuckedcompany.com is, and then I'll go more into detail of some of the other things I do and the various ways that I am able to squeeze money out of it. And also I'll talk like a little bit about my history and where I come from and where I think it's going. Quick overview of fuckedcompany.com. I think it's ranked number 900 right now on Alexa. It started out as a game. It was a website where you could bet on which internet companies were going to go out of business. And it sort of started out as a joke. And I made it just one weekend, like I'm sure everyone in here just makes a website in a weekend. It generates about $70,000 a month now. And so that's what I'll talk about. How so? And well, let me start a little with my history. I'll do a quick gloss over my history because I know nobody really cares, but some people might ask me later, so I'll just answer it now. Real quick, when I grew up right outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland, and my first introduction to this whole sort of world was from BBSing, probably like a lot of people here. And I got really into pirate BBSs and stuff like that. Never much of a hacker or freak, or more of just really into like pirating, you know, to the point where you're like downloading games that you'll never play and like utilities that you don't even know what they do, but like, you know, they're real expensive, so you download them anyway. And then I wrote a and then I started a bulletin board called the Bearded Clam, and that was in, I guess that was in 88 or 89. I'm 26 years old now, just, you know, for reference. So I guess it was like 88 or 89 when I started my bulletin board, and it got pretty big. It was in 301 area code, if anybody knew it, and it got really popular and really big. And when I say it was probably one of the biggest pirate boards in the area, but of course, speaking to scale, you know, big bulletin board was like 300 users, you know, and that was huge because your phone line was busy all the time and everything. Interesting side note. I totally knew that it was illegal, much like, you know, Napster knew that it was illegal. The thing is, when you have 300 people, there's really no way to justify it, but when you have 6 million people, you can totally try to, like, you know, afford lawyers and stuff to say that what you're doing is okay, which in the end, they lost anyway. So, so quickly, first internet, well, I had been doing IRC and, you know, email and stuff for a while, but first web experience was when I went to college. I was a freshman in 1994. Thank you. In 1994, and this girl who I was like sort of dating like at the time was like, "Have you ever heard of Mosaic? Like, it's this really cool thing," and I had never heard of it, which is why I have the utmost respect for like the 4 girls that are here, because that's cool, because a girl is the one who initially showed me this whole big thing. Anyway, my first reaction when seeing it was, and this is what sort of drove me up to now, was, wow, it's just like BBSing, except when you are running a BBS, pretty much, except for probably most of the people in this room, you were pretty much bound by area codes, you know, unless everyone's doing 950s and freaking and all that stuff, which, you know, like the more like elite, like cool your board was, like the more long distance users you had. But in general, if you're running like a site that specializes in, you know, this kind of game, and you're in the 301 area code, and there's another site that's specializing in the same exact thing, but they're like on the West Coast and a different area code, you are not competing with each other because most people will just stick to calls that are either local or near them, or there's a lot of other options with that. So anyway, but when I saw Mosaic, I said it's just like BBSing, except now instead of one online bookstore in every area code, you just need one, because it doesn't matter where you are, because everything's all graphical, and the same thing was just where BBS was going with rip scripts and graphics and all that stuff. But of course, the exact opposite thing happened, and there were 30 online bookstores and 10 online pet stores, and there was Flues and Beans and all these companies that sort of did the same thing. And I'll come back to them in a moment. Just to finish up the history thing real quick, after college, worked as a senior consultant for Booz Allen, which was funny because I had never done it before, but if you could do internet stuff, you were like a senior consultant, because it was '97 and they basically needed that. Did that for about a year, then moved to New York, where I live now. Actually, I'm a drummer. I moved here to play music, and got caught up, of course, being a programmer. There's better money in programming generally than being a drummer. So I worked for a web shop called Think New Ideas, the owner of which was, and the reason I worked there is because my boss was Adam Curry, the guy from MTV with the hair and stuff, which was kind of cool. Anyway, so that is where, a lot of times people ask me, where did you get so cynical, or how did you decide to do all this stuff, or whatever, with Fucked Company and the other things I'll get into. And a lot of it was when I was at Think New Ideas, this web shop. It's just like every other web shop, your Razorfish and Agency.com and all the other ones, and I'm just like, guy sitting in cubicle programming. And I remember one of my first jobs there, I was a programmer, but they also called me a technical producer because what that meant was, in addition to programming, I had to, I was sort of in charge of pricing things out, technically, how much is it going to cost to do X and Y, how much should we charge the client, how many hours is it going to take. So my first week on the job at Think New Ideas, I sit down and the first job they give me is they say, okay, Avon.com was one of the first clients we had, like the Avon lady, that Avon. And they go, okay, Avon wants a form on their website that you fill out the form and click a button and it sends an email. Which any programmer can write in 3 lines of code in 5 seconds. And you probably wouldn't even write it because you've probably already written it a million times and you just copy it from something else you've written. Well, at the time, my billing rate was, whatever the rate, I didn't make much money at all, but the billing rate was $150 an hour or something, which is pretty standard for a young programmer, not how much I was billing, but how much they were billing the client for my time. And the minimum, I said, even though that'll take about 5 minutes, my billing time is $150, so just tell the client it's going to cost $150 because it'll take me a few minutes and that'll cover it. And so I'm telling this to the account services person who has to talk to the client, and she says, well, just this conversation with me right here, now I'm in it, now we got a bill for my time, and well, I got to tell this guy, and that's his time. And it went through that whole thing, and it ended up being $2,000. And no, don't laugh yet, because then we gave it to the account supervisor, who was the one in charge of calling the client and telling them. And so we said, okay, it's $2,000. And he goes, we don't do anything for $2,000. Make that $20,000. So they charged $20,000. The client was like, all right, go for it. And I was like, okay, $20,000, CP space. I just copied it from another one I had written, hit enter, and I was like, there it is, it's done, $20,000. So I saw that over and over and over again. At the time I was making, like 40 grand a year or something like that. And I'm seeing literally, I did the website for Avon.com. I did it with, it was me and 3 other guys, basically. It was 4 people. We finished it in 3 months and they charged $1 million for it. I'm like, I didn't see where this, how is it $1 million yet my paycheck is I can't afford ramen noodles, in New York. Ramen noodles are $20 here. Anyway, that's sort of where I started. So one of the first things I said, so I was there for about 11 months, and I just saw this happening over and over and over again, as did everybody I worked with. And I just said, fuck this, I'm going to start my own consulting company. I'll get I'll start by doing stuff on my own, and then I can get the same like 3 people who I built Avon this $1 million website with, which the client loved. They loved our work. It was just obscenely overpriced. And get the same like 3 people and build the same websites. We'll make more money. We can charge the client like 1/5, and they're saving tons of money, and everybody's happy. So that's what I did. Started out as a freelance programmer. Got job after job to the point where I had more jobs than I could handle, and then I hired somebody and hired somebody else, and eventually I had 5 people. And that went on for about a year, a little more than a year. It was called PK Interactive, and part of, I was 24. The question was how old, and I said 24. One of the things about running that business, though, is we used to get so many people coming to us being like, okay, we have $2 million of venture capital, and we want to, sell little notepads. That's what we're going to do. We have $2 million to do it. And so we would sit here in PK Interactive, and we'd say, we can do that. We can do it way, more than you could even expect us to do. Well, you'll be so freaking happy with your notepad website, but you're going to go out of business because nobody's ever going to buy one, and it's stupid, and there's already 100 companies doing it. And they'd be like, well, you don't understand because we've got best-of-breed synergies with B2B paradigms using e-tools and leverage and synergy and like all this, eyeballs and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I don't understand. That's cool. Like, yeah, seriously. And I was like, I guess I don't understand. Fast forward 3 years, and we all know what happened with that. And I'm not taking any credit for being like the guy who's like, Flues.com was the company that, the idea with Flues was that you were going to take your own money out of your pocket and convert it to Flues dollars that you could only use on like certain sites on the internet. Nobody could ever figure out why anyone would ever actually do this, besides credit card thieves who were like stealing credit cards, turning it into Flues, and then like being able to spend it real quick. But they got $40 million in funding, and a lot of people in my position, I would imagine like tons of, like probably a lot of you, were just like, what is going on here, But I'm not, like all you're hearing from are the investors and the analysts and the journalists and all the people whose job it is to increase the value of these companies. And so a lot of, programmers and a lot of real like operations people like me are sitting here going like, I guess I just don't understand, but hey, I'm pretty good at writing programs, and they're paying me well, so I'll just keep doing it. So anyway, while I'm doing PK Interactive, I get the idea, just seeing the ridiculous come to incredible heights, and this is around May 1999, which was like the peak of insanity. And I said, this is all, and a lot of people were murmurs were coming up that this whole thing was going to crash and burn and die and be disastrous. And so I thought that's funny. Let's make a website where people can. Originally, it was like like I said earlier, it's like a celebrity Deadpool where you can bet on, instead of betting on when celebrities are going to die, you bet on when websites are going to go out of business. So I built the site in a weekend, like really dumb site. Don't tell them, but at the very beginning of the site, I used to actually just copy and paste all the news from like news.com and from like Yahoo and stuff like that. And I launched the site, and then I went on vacation. I had like a planned vacation with some friends for a week, and I went on vacation. And while I was on vacation, I had never been interviewed by like a reporter ever in my life to this point. And I'm on vacation, and I was in Brazil, and I told my employees, I was like, don't give anybody my number or where I am unless it's like super important. And then I get a call, and it's from Salon.com, which is an online magazine that ended up actually trashing my book. So, but still, they were the first real press I got. Anyway, so I'm like, well, what's going on? Why are you calling me? And they said, well, we want to talk about this website you made. And I was like, the website that I made that I sent to 6 people? Okay, side note. One of the things I want to talk about here is not just about me, but I want to talk about like things that maybe you could use in your own projects and stuff like that. So I tell everybody in the world, yeah, I made this website, and I only sent, and I'm just sort of free-forming here. I built this website, and I only sent it out to 6 people, and it got like crazy popular, and I don't know why, and it's really crazy, but that's actually a big lie, and I'll tell you what I did. As soon as I launched the site, I was sort of using what I call like the 2 Live Crew model. And the 2 Live Crew is, nobody ever heard of 2 Live Crew until they started getting arrested and started getting in trouble, and were like banned in Florida for obscenity and all that stuff. And as a musician, I was like, man, all I want to do is get in a band, be really offensive, and then like anonymously send tapes of ourselves to the PMRC and get them really like riled up, and then we'll be superstars. And so the first thing I did when I built Fuck Company was I thought, who would be really offended by this? And there was a big listserv that, if you're in New York, and elsewhere probably a lot of people know of it, called the Whack List. It's the anybody know the Whack List? Yeah, it's the www.ac.org. It's the World Wide Web Artist Consortium. And if you ever start a new site and you want to like really spam it somewhere good, put it right there, because it wasn't spam. What it was I just got some random Hotmail address. It's funny, I spoke at Microsoft like 2 months ago, and I was like talking about how I'm like making all these fake Hotmail addresses. And I'm like, oh wait. So I made some fake Hotmail address and just, you know, like Bob Johnson or something, and sent an email to the Whack List, which is it's a listserv of like basically designers and other web people. And I think there's like 6,000 or 7,000 people on the list or something like that, and they read it religiously. So anyway, I send an email. I'm like, man, this is the most offensive thing I've ever seen. This thing sucks. And I put a link to my website. And then I had like a flood of email that's like, no, dude, that site's awesome. Like, and the site just got huge after that. So the key is to find who would be, not who would like. Most people, when they advertise, they go for who's going to like it, but I go with who's really going to hate it, and then it seems to take care of itself. Anyway, so it got really big, blah, blah, blah. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, let's move to sort of like present time. The site, I get about anywhere between 200 and 500 tips sent in to me every day from people who work for different companies that are pissed off for one reason or another and tell me what's going on in their company. I'm getting all these tips, and meanwhile, this whole time, this is just like a little side thing for me. It's a little fun thing, but it's like it's turning into like a lot of work, and it's also turning into something really cool because it's becoming like up until that point, there was no real, you couldn't put your finger on like a real voice for like operations people like me, like programmers and copywriters and designers. All you heard from in the magazines were all the investors and journalists and analysts and all those people. And so people would come to my site who weren't any of those people and be like, here's what's really going on. So I had a couple of ideas, and to not be one of those like fucked CEOs or presidents I always make fun of, instead of just shutting my company down and laying off all my employees, I actually gave them the business and 3-month bonuses each. So they all own the business now and they still run it. It's called Peak Applications. Sometimes they hire me as a consultant, so hire them. So they were happy. And then basically, to quote this gentleman right here earlier, said, you know, you had a really good idea. You charge people to go through your trash, which is exactly what I do. Basically, here's how it works. And then also this relates to any website on earth. I'll tell you how mine works, and then how you could maybe make it work for yours if you have one or if you're starting one. I get these like 200 to 500 tips coming into me every day. I only read like 40 of them, and I only post like 10 of them to this. I sort of rewrite them and write my own little spin on it, and then I post it to the site. So anyway, if I post 10 to the site and I get 500, that means there are 490 people who are like, what the fuck, dude? I keep sending you stuff and you're not posting it. And I'm like, to be honest, like I'm just one guy. Like I don't have enough time to read it, or it wasn't that funny, or wasn't that good, or wasn't that interesting, or whatever. So on one side, I have all these pissed off people who are posting me stuff and sending me stuff. And they're like, dude, I'm going to stop sending you things if you don't post them. And on the other end, what I have are journalists, all the time journalists, and then sometimes investors and executives, but mostly journalists, emailing me and saying, you know, I heard Razorfish is, you know, shutting down their like London office, but I don't see anything about it anywhere, and I don't see anything about it on your site. Have you heard of anything like that? And I'll just what I do is I manually search through the database, and I'm like, oh, in fact, yeah, looks like 20 people told me that, and here's the details, and here's what's going on. So I was like, well, these people are bugging me for all this information. These people are sending me all this information. Why don't I just connect the two and sort of take a toll in the middle? So what I did was I launched the first pay service on Fucked Company, which was, and still is, for $75 a month. And I'll tell you why I priced it that number. For $75 a month, you can come into the site and you can read all of the stuff that I don't post, that I don't get around to posting. And you can search through it and you can do whatever you want with it. And that became a hit. Tons of subscribers. The reason I picked $75 a month was, first, I wanted to show that to the people who were sending me stuff, I'm not trying to take advantage of I'm not trying to, this isn't for like people who are like laid off, and I'm trying to like get 75 bucks out of them so they can like look up, you know, companies, because up to that point that was seen as the audience of the site. No, I wanted to make it expensive enough that it was clearly for businesses. It was like, this is not, you know, for regular people, it's for businesses, and if it's for businesses, then generally $75 a month is nothing. I also made it $75 a month because that was the exact price of my cable bill when I launched the service. And I was like, if I get 1 subscriber, I've got free cable. And at the peak, there were about 1,200 subscribers. Now there's less of those subscribers, but there's more of other subscribers and other services, and I'll get to that. Oh, and by the way, when I started that service, the site was still maybe a little like underground or whatever, and then all in 1 month, it was the end of 2000. It was the Yahoo site of the year, the Rolling Stone site of the year, and it was number 6 in Time Magazine's Best of 2000. That Napster kid was like the first 5. So, fuck him. Anyway. Oh, how can that relate to like other businesses? So, probably, I don't know if some people here know, just as an example, Silicon Alley Daily. Or Silicon Alley Reporter is the magazine. It's the magazine, it's like the big, you know, red herring, Fast Company, Business 2.0, Upside, etc. It's the version of that for just New York, and it's called Silicon Alley Reporter, and they have a newsletter called Silicon Alley Daily. Anyway, like a lot of those magazines and a lot of online magazines, running an online magazine is just about the most expensive thing you can do. Because you are not taking advantage of computer technology, which is the whole point, I think, of running a website. I mean, it's very manual. Any high school kid in America can make a website, you know, and if you have 20 people writing articles, that high school kid can post them up, and the website is like 1% of the whole business. And so anyway, a lot of them lose money, and this one was losing money. And the CEO of Silicon Alley Reporter made all these changes to his company. Now they do something completely different. And he came up to me at some thing where I saw him, and he was like, I came up with this after I saw you speak at some other one of his things. And I said, what happened? He said, well, you know how you were talking about, and I didn't, basically what, the overarching goal here, which I failed to mention, was find something in your database, find something that you have that you don't think is really valuable, but there are so many fucking people in this world that it's valuable to somebody. There's a site that a guy who takes naked pictures of girls wearing Fuck Company t-shirts out in LA, and he sends them to me, and he runs a website called littlegrayguy.com, and it's a website of 5,000 pictures of naked women holding his cat. And for some reason, like millions of people go to this website. Like there's something out there for everyone, and whatever you can think of, there's like gonna be a lot of people who are interested in it, no matter how stupid you think it is. So okay, one of the things of running a magazine, as you can imagine, if you've ever been in the journalism world, which I have not been, but it seems pretty obvious that if you're a journalist, you get a million press releases every day. Everybody's sending you press releases because everybody wants you to write about them. So this is a magazine called Silicon Alley Reporter, and it's all tech, internet stuff in New York. And so he's getting a ton of press releases from companies, from tech companies in New York, saying here's what we're doing, here's our new product, here's, you know, how much venture capital we just got, here's this, here's that, and they're getting like thousands and thousands of press releases, like every other magazine out there. So anyway, he's telling me that, he's like, so we were getting all these press releases, right? Every magazine in the world gets a million press releases, and you keep the ones you want to keep, and you throw away like 99% of them. He said, but I listened to what you said, and we have all these press releases. Press releases are, obviously, the whole point of a press release is you want the whole world to see it. So they're not secret, just the opposite. The people who issue them really want everyone to see it. But most people, you and I, don't get thousands of press releases mailed to us every day because we don't run magazines. But he does. So he goes, what I did was I started to keep all my press releases, and I hired somebody for like, you know, some like 12-year-old for like $5 an hour to like sit there and type in all of the contact information that's on every press release, and like a 2-sentence synopsis of like what it says. Most of them were like, this is, a lot of them were venture capital, like, you know, they got X dollars in venture capital, or they hired this guy, or they fired that guy, or whatever. So now they have the biggest database of executive contact information and venture capitalist contact information and all this information. And it's a database of stuff that's all just been given to them for free, and they sell it now. I think he sells it for $1,000 a year. You get to like go through his database and be like, well, what venture capitalists have given over $1 million in VC to an online broadcasting company in the past 6 months? And he'll show you, according to all the press releases, he'll be like, well, we're 57, and here they are, and here's their contact information if you want to call them, because they want people to call them. So anyway, that was an example of just taking stuff that you have that you think is garbage and charging for it. And that literally was garbage, because they would normally throw it away. Another quick example of something I'm doing now, a new site that I'm going to launch in the next week or two. It's called internalmemos.com. I have about 750 so far internal memos that have been emailed or sent or faxed to me from people, from like basically moles, like people in their companies who aren't happy, and so they're like, well, you know, everything from so-and-so is getting laid off or whatever to like they changed the lunch menu in the cafeteria. Like I get it all, and so I have this big stack here, and I'm like, you know, I should just scan these all and charge people to read them. Yes, there are legal implications with that, which I'm currently going over with my lawyer, but I think we're going to find out a way to do it. Why not? Okay, then what I did to expand, so first I've told you how to really bring a lot of traffic to your site, which is find the people who would be most likely to be offended by it and make sure they know about it. And then once you have people coming to your site, what can you charge for? Whatever you have that nobody else has or other people have but nobody's selling, you know. That is what you can charge for. And then once you do that, now you have a big audience coming to your website of people who are willing to put their credit card number in for stuff. Now, well, actually, let me rewind. There are like 4 million people who come to the website every month, and 3,999,000 of them don't pay for anything, which is fine. That's good. But those, you know, 1,000 or so people who do, they're cool. And what you do is you start other services, and you have essentially like a launching pad for anything you want to do. So what I did real quick was I started looking, and here's another idea for you if you have a site or if you're starting one to make money. And you're a programmer, or you've had a programmer write something for you, any little program that you need that you think, you know, like anybody in here who has any type of website has, you know, if it's not just static HTML, you know, there's some program behind it that you wrote to do something. The fact that you found that program useful because you wrote it or you had somebody write it means there are probably 10 million other people who would think that was useful. Of those 10 million people, you want them all to know that, well, here's the point. There are so many people who are probably interested in that what I generally do is I take every line of code that I write on my website, I write it with the idea that it can be used by not just me, but by anybody. And it's a pretty standard thing. You know, as far as the database, anytime I ever make like a user's database, you know, where you have username and name and password and address and whatever, I always just add a column called site ID. I'm like, because one day, you know, I'm site ID 1, but one day there's going to be site ID 2 using this and site ID 3, and there are going to be 1,000 sites using this. So the first example of that was for online advertising. As everyone knows, the online advertising market totally tanked. And I was using L90 at the time. They're kind of like DoubleClick, you know, one of those big ad sales people, and they weren't able to sell anything. But people would email me all the time, and they'd be like, well, I just want to buy like $50 worth of ads from you and see if it works, you know, and if it doesn't work, then I don't want to, you know, I won't buy more, but if it really works, then I'll come back and buy like $10,000 worth of ads. And I always used to have the same response. I'd say, well, why don't you, you know, buy the $10,000 worth of ads now, and then if you want more, I'll give you the second half for like $50. But nobody was into that. So, so then I said, I know what I'll do. Screw L90 and DoubleClick, and there are a billion ad server, freeware ad server programs you can find out there that just cycle through banner ads. And I said, I'll just take one of those and modify it ever so slightly so that people can, and I already set up all the cyber cache and all my billing stuff and all that for the subscription service. And I said, what I'll do is I'll take one of those ad serving programs and I'll make it so that people can buy ads with their credit card. Which seems like pretty obvious, since you can pretty much buy anything on the internet with a credit card, but it does not happen with advertisements. Now you can do it with Google. You can buy like keywords with your credit card, and you can like Pyre ads, and like Blogger has one now that you can. But at the time, nobody was doing it, and you couldn't buy ads with a credit card, and which seemed like pretty obvious to me. And people I'd mentioned to were like, yeah, like, that seems all right. So, long story short, you go now to my website, and you look up where the banner ad is, and there's a little link next to it that says your ad here. And if you click that, it brings you to a page that says, all right, how many impressions do you want? Upload your banner. Here's how much it's going to cost. Put in your credit card number, and then it sends me an email automatically, and I can approve or reject the ad. Automatically, I started making money from advertising again, because people were, $100 here, $100 there. People trying it out. It worked for some people. It didn't work for some people. So some people came back and bought more. Some people did not. Doesn't matter. Ads are pretty much free for me to run. Started, not making millions from ads, but making a couple $100 a day from ads, which is like pretty good for doing nothing. So what I did was I took my own advice and I opened it up for the whole world, and I made a site which exists right now called HTTP Ads. It's httpads.com, and right now there are about 2,000 websites using it, and you can go sign up, and it takes exactly like 2 minutes to sign up, and I just give you a big chunk of HTML code, and I say, stick this on your site. You stick it on your site, done. People come in by ads. I bill the credit cards. At the end of the month, I send you a check for 80%, and I keep 20%, as opposed to 50%, which is what DoubleClick and all those guys take. So everybody's happy, and it works out, and that's rocking. Another example of that, of course, I built it for myself, and then I opened it up. Another example of that is a site called amazonscan.com. It's now called junglescan.com, because I got a bunch of nasty letters from Amazon. But the idea with it was I wrote a book published by Simon & Schuster in April a few months ago, and I'll talk a little about that too. But this is fun, being able to talk. Like the first time, I'm like not pitching my book. Like, anyway, so Amazon.com has sales rankings for all of their items. How's it doing in comparison to every other item on Amazon? So what I did was and I always like to check it, and they update it every hour. But I don't want to go to Amazon every hour and look at where my book is. So I wrote a program that would do that. It's like, super easy, a little screen scrape, just goes every hour and just grabs the ranking, no big deal, of my book. And then I can, chart it, look at the numbers, and, I can look at it once a week and see exactly how my book did. I can see after this talk, maybe if like 5 of you go out and buy it, which will be like, 500% more people than would probably normally buy it today. I'll see like a huge spike. So I said, well, I find this interesting, and like I said before, if I find it interesting, there are 10, 20 million other people out there who probably will find it interesting too. So I opened it up to the whole world, and I called it Amazon Scan, and I said, put in your book or CD or anything that's sold by Amazon, and I'll go out automatically and track it, and you can chart it and graph it, and then I can do fun things with the numbers, like show you today's highest gainers and today's biggest losers, and all kinds of the highest ranked items ever and the lowest ranked items ever. And so I did that, and every link on the site goes through Amazon's affiliate program, which anybody can sign up for. And I started that about 5 months ago, and it's already generated $100,000 for Amazon.com, not for me. I get 5 to 15% of that through the affiliate program. But it's another one of those, it's another example of just using something that is like so dumb and stupid and easy that you just do for yourself. And you just have to remember, how many people are out there on this interweb thing that we've heard of so much. So that's pretty much that. I'll give like 5 seconds of like where I see it going in the future, because that's like the most frequently asked question I get. The most frequently asked question is generally like, well, the .com thing happened like 1999, like what do you think is the future of your site? My answer, which has been the answer for the past 2 weeks, the past 2.5 years, is I think it's got another good week or two left in it. But I've been saying that for 2.5 years, so I'm not gonna guess anymore. Subscriptions have gone down a little, but traffic has shot way up. Traffic is now higher than it's ever been, especially after all the Enron, WorldCom, Xerox, etc. Accounting scandals. That has really sort of swung things back into the direction of my website. Anyway, so that's, how am I doing on time? Am I about, oh, I'm really early. And I have a lot more things I can talk about, but if anybody's interested, I'll like to take questions.
Yeah. There we go.
Where's the mic? I can't even see. Oh, whatever, just talk. Oh, hey.
Questions?
Hello, sir. Oh, you're not asking a question. You're just the mic man. Does anybody have a question? You can just shout it out. I don't know if you got to go all the way up to the mic. Oh, you got to talk to the mic because we're recording it. But you know what? If you do shout it out, I'll say it, and then the camera will hear it. Because I know it's a big pain in the ass to like get up. I probably wouldn't.
About 2 years ago, I gave you a internal memo from a company, which I won't name now, but it was a big one, and you put it on your page, and it was cool. What? I'll tell you later. I'm not
Thank you,
do it
by the
mic.
way, for that.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and the president got really mad, but he has no idea who did it. I got the memo because I left the company 4 months before, and I was still on the mailing list. So I don't know. And it's a really big company that you all know, so it's scary as hell. Anyhow, so you protect my anonymity at some level, I assume, but if they got really mad and they did evil legal things, like how would you protect the fact that I did stuff? And I used a Hotmail account and blah 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 to give it to you,
Okay.
but still.
Right,
you
I
know.
didn't post any of that stuff, right.
Right, yeah, you protected
I'll take
me,
out
but
your
still.
name and everything. That is the question is, how do you protect anonymity? And well, first of all, let me give you an example, because it's a real example that actually happened. There's a company called printcafe.com, I think. And they're like an online print, whatever, it doesn't matter what they are. And I had never heard of this company besides that they screwed like 100 of their employees, and so I wrote something about it on my site. Anyway, I get 1 or 2 cease and desist letters every week. So it's no big deal to me. I get them, and I deal with each one on an individual basis. The only rule I have on my site for myself and how I edit it is the site is for the employees, And so I look at it as an employee of the company. If the memo was saying, yeah, like, so-and-so is, this girl who's a designer is like sleeping her way to the top or whatever. She's an employee, so I'm not going to post something like that, and I'll get rid of something like that. But, if it's something about a CEO who like lied and ripped off all his employees, I'll post that. Anyway, so what I was saying was, this company, Print Cafe, sends me a cease and desist letter, and in the letter it said, people are posting internal information in your message boards. People are posting, then I went through and I looked. People were posting like how much money they had in their bank account. People were posting like the CEO's cell phone number. Like, people were posting all this stuff. But the interesting part was, this was the first company that, instead of threatening me and saying, take that stuff down, they said, leave it up, but tell us who's posting it. And I said, no, I'm not telling you who's posting it. The whole point of my site is it's an anonymous forum. That's the service that I provide. So then they threatened to sue me. And I said, I'm not giving you that information. Sorry. Then they went to a judge and they got a subpoena, and they issued me a subpoena. A subpoena is when they ask, a lawyer asks you questions and you have to answer them truthfully because you're under oath. And if you don't answer them truthfully, you go to jail. So they subpoenaed me, and I'm on the phone, conference call. It's me and my lawyer, and them, their lawyer, and their like their tech guy, And so finally they're like, okay, oh no, sorry, that was a deposition. I give you the definition for deposition, not a subpoena. Deposition, I was being deposed, and the point of the deposition was that they were going to subpoena records from me. Subpoena is when I have to give them the records. I am clearly not a lawyer. Anyway, so I'm being deposed, and I'm answering all the questions, and finally they're like, okay, well, you have to give us the IP addresses of who posted this message. I said, not going to do it. And they said, why? I said, because I don't store them. I don't store traffic logs. I don't store IP addresses. I don't store any of that stuff. I don't set cookies. I don't do anything. Which sometimes makes it difficult. You can't do any, there are a lot of things you can't do on a it's hard to maintain state and do different things when you're not, doing any of this stuff. But the whole point was I knew one day I would be in this position, and I wanted to just tell the lawyers, like, no, I'm not going to do it. So we went back and forth, and they were like, well, give us the IP address. And I said, no. And then they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. They said, okay, these people who are posting all this stuff to your site, they keep coming back day after day, and they're doing. Why don't you just turn on IP logging just for like a day, and don't tell anybody, and we'll trap them, and then you give us the IP addresses. And I was like, I don't think the judge who gave you that subpoena and who approved of this or who gave you this subpoena had the intention of basically destroying my entire business for some like fucked like .com that's like going to go out of business in a week anyway. And so that's what I said to them. Actually, my lawyer wasn't happy with that, but they went away and they never came back. So that was that. Yes, sir.
Just two short questions. One, I was wondering if there was any way that you kind of determine the authenticity of anything you get, and also, and maybe I've missed this, do you have a fund or something set up? Because it seems like people would love to just follow you as you start shorting companies or something based on what you get. I know there's probably insider rules in that, but that's all.
Okay, two questions. The first was how do you authenticate information that you get, and then can I invest with you? The first question, how do I authenticate it? I basically don't. Here's the deal. Well, like for all like your CS majors in the house, you know how like the first thing you learn in like CS 101 is like there's data and then there's information. And data is just like you all are data, like sitting here. But information is like you're wearing a blue shirt and you're wearing a black shirt. Like that, you're turning information into data. So I kind of look at my site like information, In translation is I'm not a journalist. I have absolutely no journalistic integrity because I don't have to. It's just me. I can do whatever I want. If you are a reporter for any type of major magazine or newspaper, you generally have the two sources rule. And what that means is when you hear a rumor, when you hear so-and-so is going out of business, you need two sources to say that yes, that is true, two real insiders. I basically have a bunch of pixels on a screen telling me that this is happening with no real person behind it. So what I do, everything that turns into news starts out as rumor. So what I am is I'm the rumor. On the other hand, how do I authenticate it? So far I've written about 4,000 pieces on my site. And the most wrong I've been, to my knowledge, is I'll say somebody's laying off 100 people when it's really 60 people. And then, well, of course, the cool part about a website is I can go change it to 60 and be like, it never said 100. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, that's the deal with authenticity. So the end result is it doesn't really matter too much. But you can usually, but the really thing is you can tell, what I'll do is the back end, the extranet sort of thing that I wrote to maintain it, what I'll do is I get 500, let's say I get 500 tips today right now, and I want to go home and I want to read through them. I don't just randomly go through. What I do is I have a program that goes through each tip that I get and it counts up the keywords. So for example, if I got 500 tips today and 50 of them said H2K2 in it, I would go home and that'd be at the top of my list. And it'd be like, I don't know what happened there, but something happened there because 50 people just sent you an email that has that word in it, so check it out. So the authenticity thing is if I see 20, 30 people sending me the same sort of thing, I could tell it's sort of different people, that I just go with gut instinct and I publish it, and it's pretty much always right on. Any other questions? Anybody just want to shout one out and then I'll say it into the mic? How was Brazil? It was okay. Actually, it sucked because the whole time, which I went to Brazil like the day after I launched the site, and I was like, I want to go home and like work on my website. You know how it is. It's like serious addiction, Like right now, I'm like, what's her? Okay. Do I post the cease and in 1 second. Do I post the cease and desist letters? Yeah. Oh yeah. Not all of them. I post a lot of them. If it's something that I'll comply with, then I don't want to seem like a big pussy and let everyone know that I complied with it, so I just sort of keep it on the DL. Like I got a cease and desist from Viacom because somebody was writing. No, it was from MTV. It was from MTV because somebody was writing something about MTV in the message boards, and they were like, "Please get rid of this." And normally I'd be like, "Ah, fuck you, you're the man." But I was like, "Well, MTV is owned by Viacom. Viacom owns Simon & Schuster. I am in the middle of negotiating a book contract with Simon & Schuster. Don't want to do that. Don't want to go there." Deleted the messages. threw away the cease and desist. Never happened. But I would never, like I was saying earlier, there'd never be any type of like privacy concerns or anything that I would push out on. Yes, sir.
I was wondering, with your the functionality that you have, say with the Amazon thing.
Yeah.
Is that protected at all in case Amazon says that, oh, I think that's a great idea, and they start offering the service on their site? And if it is protected, do you do anything if you find out that, say, I thought it was a great idea and I wrote my own program to do it for myself without paying you?
Right, the question is, what's the deal with Amazon Scan in that regard? And the
Amazon,
answer is,
for instance, but any similar.
Right. Well, that site in particular, when I first wrote Amazon Scan, it started to get really popular. I was like, Amazon is probably going to say that this is a good idea, and they probably will steal the idea, and they probably will do it. And there's nothing I can do about it because they can do it better because they don't have to do screen scrapes. They got the data in a database right there. So that's what's probably going to happen. On the other hand, Amazon really loves it. They've called me a bunch of times, and they've been like, we think it's really cool. Alexa, which does traffic rankings, which is owned by Amazon. I'm now doing, in addition to tracking the ranking of books, I'm tracking the ranking of websites on Alexa. And the Alexa people, I'm talking with them, they're actually adding functionality into their Alexa toolbar, which is this little thing that they can spy on you. And but really, the reason, what I get out of it is they also maintain traffic rankings. They're adding functionality into that for me, for Amazon Scan. So they seem pretty gung-ho about it now. Maybe they'll buy it, but they probably won't because it's like written in PHP, which sucks. And if it got as much traffic as Amazon gets, it would probably die.
Has your ISP ever complained about anything that you host on your website?
Have what?
Your ISP ever complained about anything you host on your website?
Has my ISP ever complained? My ISP went bankrupt. Exodus. They're like, my servers, they were in New Jersey, which was cool because like technically I'm not allowed in the NOC, but if I really need to go like swap out a hard drive, like they'll sort of let me in. So one day I call and I'm like, yeah, I got to come down because my computer's all fucked up. The website, by the way, if anybody cares, my site's I have 5 servers, 5 dedicated servers down there, 3 Linux, 1 Windows 2000, and 1 Windows NT. And the website is Cold Fusion, PHP, Perl, Java. I use MySQL for some of the stuff, SQL Server for some of the stuff, flat files for some of the stuff. It's a big mess. Which I don't recommend, but that's what happens when you don't plan. Wait, what the hell was the question? I don't even remember. Oh, has my ISP ever complained? Yeah, one time. They were like, some people are writing some stuff in the message boards, and again, not to like let the world know like that I'm like a big like pussy loser. I deleted it and didn't tell anybody. So only once. Oh, also a lot of times people, if they want to complain to me, what they do is they think they're really going to get me by complaining to the ISP, and the ISP has the best response. Because like for example, let's say somebody were slandering you on my site, which I don't, I'll take care of it if I see it, but I told you the rule, the site is for the employees, so whatever. But anyway, instead of coming to me, they come to my ISP, and my ISP is like, we have nothing to do with that site, we host it, but that's that. And so my ISP has been really cool, even though they're bankrupt. And I'm a little scared. Oh, the point of my servers being in New Jersey. They shipped like 2 of them out to California without telling me. Like my site was down for a day, they overnighted, or they same date it to across the country because like this one's bankrupt and that one's not. And it's really really sucks. And I'm trying to figure out what to do now. If anybody wants to give me free hosting, come see me. Otherwise, I'll probably stay with them.
How much bandwidth do you use per month?
How much bandwidth do I use per month? Well, the way for big sites, you generally they do it like per second. I don't know per month, but I'm at 20 gigs a second. No, 20 megs a second. Yeah, sorry. 20 megs a second, which is still a lot. So I'm trying to really scale down on graphics. And it's funny when you look at a site, like a lot of people don't think about it. Go to for example, go to yahoo.com, go to their homepage, and until recently they only had 2 graphics. They had a Yahoo graphic on top, and they had a little like Visa logo for like something they were selling. Because when a site gets as much traffic as Yahoo, which is, I think, the #1 site on the internet right now, adding one little, like, 800-byte graphic to your homepage is like $2 million a year in bandwidth, And you really start to realize, like, okay, I need to, like, chill out with the graphics and the movies and all the stuff. So I'm, strip it down a little bit.
So I was just wondering, since you've given us this, all these great examples of what we can do to make money with our company, are there people that have written you that have done something that have made successful, and who are they? Or not who are they, but like some examples?
What have people done? Well, the one was I gave you the example of the Silicon Alley reporter guy who said he figured out how to make money by selling the information that he had in these press releases. And to answer your question, I will remember that I forgot the second half of that other guy's question, which was like, can I invest with you? That question. I don't, I've always, well, I never had enough money really to invest in the stock market until I started PK Interactive and Fuck Company, and by that time the stocks were going way down, but still didn't really know a whole lot about shorting or any of that stuff. B, my lawyer was like, you really shouldn't start trading on these like internal documents and memos and stuff you're getting all the time. I didn't want to get wrapped up in that, so I'm buying an apartment, but that's my, I don't really go into the market too much. And how that relates to your question, I just got finished with an 8-city book tour, and every city I went to, there would be like one guy in the audience who will come up to me. He doesn't even have a book in his hand. He's like, I'm not trying to like buy a book. I just want to tell you that I made like $10 million because of your website. And I'm like, you should be buying like 2 books. And what they do is a lot of people are using it to find real estate, for example. Companies going out of business, they gotta sell their place cheap and fast. Huh? Oh, I think I'm running out of some guy on phone. Real estate, the company's going out of business, you can find out what's available. A lot of people are using it to buy and sell assets. Company goes out of business. Big internet company goes out of business. There's going to be like 200 Aeron chairs up for sale. So people are buying that stuff real cheap and selling. And there's a lot of different ways to make money, and a lot of people just use it to short stocks. Yes, sir.
I have 2 related intellectual property questions related to your premium service where people pay per month to get the tips that are submitted to you that you don't publish. And the first question is, what gives you the right to resell those tips that are given to you? And the second thing is, what prevents your premium customers from turning around and giving those tips away?
The question is, what gives me the right to sell the tips that are coming into me, and then what keeps people who buy the tips from turning around and selling them or giving them away or doing whatever they want with them? It's not what gives me the right. It's that when you submit on the form, you have to. It's not email. It's not stuff like that. It's through a form, and the form says in huge, big ass, bold letters, whatever you put in here, I will basically sell. Anyone will see it. Anybody who wants to see it will see it. So don't put any personal information in here. Don't put anything you don't want the entire world to know about in here. And the reason why people send me stuff, if they didn't want the world to know about it, they wouldn't tell anybody. They tell me because they're hoping I'll put it up on the site. And if I put it on the site, there's 4 million people a month who are going to read it. If I don't put it on the site and it just gets sold, at least there's like 1,000 people who are going to see it, as opposed to nobody. Then it's a whole big waste of putting it in. So people like that that at least if it doesn't make it to the site, at least somebody's seeing it. The people who matter are seeing it. Maybe some journalist is going to see it and write a story about it, and then 1 billion people will get to see it. And what keeps people from turning around and selling the information that I have? Nothing. In fact, it's, sure, there's like a terms and conditions where I say, don't sell it and don't whatever, but, people can do whatever they want. What keeps you from going down on the street and selling bootleg Madonna CDs? Like, kind of nothing, you can. Is that sufficient?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Any of my employees post anything that, well, right now I only have 1 employee. But for a company, because they're all, the old consulting company gave it to them. No, one of the cool things about running my site is I control what's on it. So I'm like, big surprise, there's nothing about me on it. No, actually, I am probably the most slandered person on the, if you really do the site and you like a search for my name or something, you'll read you can find pretty much anything about me, which I use when people complain to me. They're like, hey, there's okay, my site, just to give you some numbers, there are over 10 million messages that have been posted to my site in the various message boards. Some guy will complain because one of them says something bad about him, and I'll be, dude, 5 million of them say something bad about me. It's okay. Yes, sir.
How much time do you spend on this? I mean, it's just you, so what's your schedule? Like, what do you do to work on this?
What's my schedule? How much time do I spend on it? I'm generally like a nighttime guy. Like, I'm going to hearken to guess that most of this audience probably is too. Don't really like waking up early, call me crazy, but for some reason I feel we have something in common there. I generally, I like to get about 6 or 7 hours of sleep. I mean, I get more, but 6 or 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night. But I generally wake up at about 1 or 2 p.m. and stay up really, till the sun comes up. People ask like how many hours a day or how many hours a week do you work, and I never really know how to answer that question because the answer is either 0 or 24/7, because it's just what I do, and I like to do it, and it's like, like for some people it's like watching TV. It's like and I know a lot of you can totally relate to this. Like, you're like using Photoshop right now because like it's cool, it's fun, like whatever. That's what you do. That's what you do. So I don't really know. But actual like work on Fucked Company, I mean, it takes a couple hours to write the site. A lot of times I'm doing maintaining it. A lot of times I'm restarting the SQL server every like hour because it's crashing. So it could go anywhere from like 2 hours a day to like all-nighters, which I do all the time. Yes, sir.
What's the name of your book? And how?
Oh, yeah, let me talk for a second about my book. What's the name of the book? It's called Effed Companies, Spectacular.com Flameouts. It actually is F''D. People always say to me, oh, is that because Simon & Schuster didn't want to like put the word fucked? Like, no, actually they did want to put the word fucked. But I know that Walmart isn't going to sell like a CD with like a bikini on the cover. Like, they're not going to sell a book that says fucked on the front. So I sold out as hard as possible there and put the censored version. But the inside of the book is not censored at all. It's a lot of naughty. You must be 18 or older to open this book. Click here. It's called F Company Spectacular.com Flameouts. Really quickly, what it is it's sort of like a bathroom reading kind of thing. It's 150 short stories of the dumbest, most ridiculous .com business plans I could find out there that had millions. How much money, how many millions went into them, and how many people were affected, and what they tried to do. I mean, there's everything from, well, there's all the ones that we've all heard of, Pets and Webvan and Cosmo and Furniture.com. But what's more interesting are the ones that you haven't heard of that went through just as much money. Like, there's HeavenlyDoor.com, spent $20 million trying to sell cemetery plots online. DigiSense spent $20 million making a device so that you could smell websites. It's a thing that you plug into your computer, and they are trying to pass through like the W3 standards, like a HTML tag for like smell, like scent equals strawberries. And then this thing like puffs out like little smells of it's nuts, I know, but that didn't take off. That's funny because that's one of those things that's like really, really cool, but there's like no commercial reason for it. So anyway, so it's got a lot of stuff like that in it, and it's pretty wacky, I think. Any other questions? I'm done. I'm getting the X. Thank you.